On this installment of Creative Cabin Fever, I am joined by Davie Furey. Now, Davie is about to release a brand new album on the 19th of February called Haunted Streets. And there is a host of other talented musicians on that and so many incredible songs with beautiful stories behind them. So I decided I would meet up with Davie and have a conversation about all of that. Davie, how are you?
Good, Rebecca. Thanks for having me on. How are you?
I'm really well, thank you. It's actually a nice sunny day in the southeast, which I didn't expect. So I went for a walk today. I haven't been great at leaving the house, but today I was like, no, I'm going to go for coffee.
Yeah, you're right too, man. It's great for the head, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's really, really important, that every so often you make the effort. I haven't been great. Like the last 3 weeks, I was kind of like, I don't want to see anyone. But today I was like, no, I'm going to do it.
Well done. How do you feel after it?
Good. Yeah, I usually go to the park and listen to music. So that's exactly what I did.
Oh, deadly. That's really nice. Waterford cool place anyway. I love it.
Yeah, we are lucky enough. What do you usually do yourself to try and get out of the house or just find yourself doing something a bit out of the routine?
Well, like yourself, it's kind of getting out for walks. It's all you can do, isn't it? Like we can't get out of the 5 kilometers. So between that and music and other small bits and pieces, but walking is really important, yeah. And I do the same. Sometimes I don't bring the headphones. Depends if I'm in the woods or the forest. I like to listen to nature and listen to a bit of what's going on with their lives. But other times it's music and listening to what's happening.
Yeah, I like to connect with nature as well. Most of the time I take my headphones with me, but that's just because sometimes I get socially awkward. So it's just easier to have headphones on and not have to talk to people.
I don't believe that.
No, it's the truth. So Haunted Streets is coming out. So you've got a great variety of other artists joining you on that album. You've got songs you've had in the works for 8 years that you modified and changed. You have songs that are inspired by people in your life that really mattered. How does that process come about? Like, how do you feel about releasing in lockdown and also being able to finally have these songs out there for everyone to hear?
It's kind of a relief to have it finished in some way, that it's actually done and it's out there and everything is taken care of. The likes of the song you referred to about 8 years ago was Farewell Returning Blues, which I recorded in a different way, but I just felt it wasn't the way that I wanted it to sound. Maybe at the time, but even listening back onto it, someone, my cousin Lee actually said, you should record that again. So we slowed it down and Darren Holden came on and did some beautiful piano parts on it. Darren plays the High Kings. So I was really happy with that. Kind of a slow ballady, kind of Van Morrison kind of vibe in it, which is what I was looking for, without any big mad sax coming in the top of it. So that was nice. It was nice to get the songs down and to record with other people. As a solo artist, you don't always get that. So it was just nice to have a few friendly faces and so much talent. It was unbelievable, really.
Yeah, no, there is quite the stellar cast to your album. It's very impressive.
Thanks. Well, it's nothing to do with me, really. They're brilliant. They're very good. They're just great musicians. Great musicians. And Martin Quinn, the producer, and the studio, he owns Jam Studios in Kells, who has done an awful lot of work with a lot of artists around Ireland and beyond. So that was really, it was, he's just a brilliant producer too, you know. It's very easy to bring in your songs and develop them.
Yeah, that's really important is that connection with a producer, that connection with an engineer so that you actually know that they're going to deliver what you actually feel like.
Yeah, well, it's a trust issue. And I could have trust issues. Who doesn't? Exactly. So it's you really want to work with people that you can trust, especially with your songs when people are going to be listening to them and judging you on them, whether you like it or not, and judging the songs. So that trust issue or that trust is really, really important in a studio. And it's amazing how much I got from the musicians that joined me as well. I didn't really explain to them what I wanted them to do. They just did it themselves. They're too good to be told what to do. So it was really, really sweet.
And how did you go about that process then of choosing and picking who else you wanted on your album? Or did people come to you or how did it work?
No, I went to most of them actually. Took off my hat and started begging. It was really cute. It was really it was inspiring, and we kind of meet these people on the road and we talk. It's a pretty small community, as you know, Rebecca, in Ireland. So it was really, really great to be able to do that. Certain people we met on the road, like the song The Magic of the Ocean with Susan O'Neill, I wrote that specifically with her in mind, that I thought she might like it. And thankfully she did. And she came on and sang a little bit on it, and sang a lot on it, and helped develop the lyrics the night before as well. Other songs then, when they're kind of towards the end of the stage, you might just say, geez, wouldn't Wickham's fiddle be brilliant on this? Or Darren would be great on this, or Robbie would be great banjo, So the song kind of reveals itself in the studio. So it's kind of nice that I took my time with it as well, because other things started to pop up, and I was delighted with that. So it's we kind of took our time with it, and there were singles in between, all right, But it's always nice to work with other people, providing they're sound and decent.
Absolutely. That is a very important prerequisite for me as well. If you're nice to me, I will work with you.
There you go. It's not rocket science, is it?
No. Yeah. So that's amazing. I love that there's kind of an organic push to the album. So it's like, yes, I have these people in mind, but they also ended up contributing and forming the songs with you, which is what it is. Like, it's kind of like a mind hive type situation, which probably adds more magic to the album, which it is. It's really, really beautiful. I can't wait for everyone to hear it.
Thank you.
From the
Yeah,
19th.
It is. It's really nice that you don't have to tell people exactly where you wanted it, because then I'm as surprised as anybody else when they come. And I wanted they to hear what I couldn't hear, if that makes sense. So they brought parts and they changed the songs in certain ways, like Francie Conway did with his 12-string guitar. So that was really nice. It's exciting too. It brings a bit of excitement to it. It's not all about me.
Well, it isn't. When you're actually working with other people, it kind of stops being just about you, Davie. Like, it does. Like, if it was your album, you'd do it all by yourself. But in this case, you managed to find the right people to go along with your idea. So then it becomes an even more beautiful piece, because it is about that mind hive and using other people's qualities and magic in order to enhance your own.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And inspires your own imagination and your own musicianship. So yeah, it was cool. It was a great experience.
So I guess before we talk about the album, and we already have sort of, I kind of wonder, like, how did Davie Furey become Davie Furey? So where was your inspiration? Where did you find your craft and your voice?
Well, I'm still becoming. I'm still looking for Davie somewhere out there, or somewhere in here, wherever he may be. I like that search, actually. I think it's important for a writer not to settle on their laurels as such. You can be contented in your own skin, which I am very much contented in my own skin. It wasn't always that way, but it's nice that the last couple of years I really have felt really at home in myself, if that makes sense. The songs help as well, they're like a reflective state on yourself and on others. They're not all about me either, like I like to expand my writing to bring in characters and write about other people and write about other situations that may or may not have happened. So it's just a great world to go into, the musical world. You can write about anything you want, and if they think it's about you, you can just lie through your arse and say, no, it's not about me. So it's an ongoing process. I got my first guitar when I was 15, basically. Daddy bought me first guitar in Dublin, and I started learning folk songs. It was all folk music at that time. But then the Smashing Pumpkins came out with Siamese Dream. And that whole grunge thing was, I don't like saying grunge thing, but that's what they call it, I guess. Pearl Jam brought out 10. Nirvana had a few albums out, particularly the Unplugged album, which I was very taken with. And I loved all that stuff. And we went to see the Smashing Pumpkins in the SFX, the first time they ever played in Ireland. And it was mental, but what a gig. It was a brilliant, brilliant gig. So there was a whole load of influences, if that makes sense, from Christy Moore to Billy Corgan. there's no one I wouldn't not listen to. But if I didn't like him, obviously I wouldn't listen to him. Or if I didn't connect with it, I wouldn't listen to it. I'd go back. But mainly it was songwriters. Even Billy Joel come on the scene when I was pretty young. And now lately, it's Bon Iver and the Pillow Queens are really cool. The War on Drugs I've been listening to a lot over the last couple of years. And Steve Earle's latest album. There's a lot of stuff. There's so much music out there though, isn't there, Rebecca?
My goodness, yes, I have actually lost years of my life, which is wonderful because you want that. I was watching a podcast last night and they were saying, oh, there's more music being released now. And I was like, actually, I don't agree with that. I think there was always that much music. They just didn't need us as much as they do now. So like promoters, radio presenters, music journalists, all the things that I do, I wasn't as needed before because you had a way of promoting music yourself. You could just perform and then people would talk about you, word of mouth would happen. Whereas now more people are actually reaching out to me. But that's not because they're making more music. It's because they don't have the normal or the usual ways to promote their songs, which is a great honor. But then people were like, oh, I think there's more music being made. And I was like, no, I think it's the same amount of music, just the process is slightly different.
Yeah, I don't know actually. I haven't thought that deeply about it, but I understand what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely. The fact that we're releasing albums without being able to tour, if you said that before, you would have been saying, fucking mad or what. But it's, yeah, I understand that, all right. Yeah, we definitely rely on journalists and media to get the word out. But there's so much free music now, which is the difficulty, But, it is what it is. We'd be all right.
Yeah, look, I think anyone who's in the music industry, it's because it's a calling. Like, it's not like you have a choice. Like, you are there because there's something in you that makes you there. Like, you need to make music. Now, should that come with a pay? Of course it should. That's just like any job needs to be paid. But there's still something stronger, I think, in people who are in the music industry. That's just, yes, this is what I want to do with my life, but this is why I do it. It's not the same as, I don't know, any other kind of calling or.
Yeah, I can understand that as well, like a vocation kind of thing. Not every musician are in it for the same reasons. That's the other thing. But they the ones that are in it for the right reasons, I think, stand out to me anyway. The songs are always the most important thing. The songs, people come to hear the songs, people listen to the songs, and the songs come to you when you need them most, I believe. And they're always around. They stir up memories like a smell or a scent, and they're the best companions that I could ever wish for. So I think if you're in it for the right reasons, I'm not in it to become a millionaire. I'm not in it to play out Croke Park. I love writing songs and I love singing them. If I can make a living out of it, obviously I want to do it. So if you're in it for the right reasons, and unfortunately some of the programs like X Factor and The Voice and that kind of stuff, I just hear them talking and say, Jesus, you don't really want to be a singer, do you?
Yeah, it's kind of like there's an allure that's kind of maybe a little bit fictitious unless you actually work in it. Everyone thinks it's very, very glamorous, and it does have those moments, but it's also incredibly taxing. Like, it's a lot of hard work. Like, for you to perfect your craft, like I assume you play the guitar quite regularly. You know what I mean? You also have to take to the road in a normal circumstance. This is not a normal circumstance, but you could be gone for months at a time trying to promote an album. So you're losing out on like other things that people take for granted. Like I was talking to a lighting engineer today and he was like, I remember there was this one guy who wanted to do lighting engineering, but he didn't realize it was going to be 18-hour days. And I was like, yeah, because you don't realize that you're going to be lugging around gear, running after people, that your whole entire day is going to be taken up. You just see what people want you to see. And that's kind of the beauty of it. We do have like this glamorous glow, but there is so much more to what all of us do. Like, I started doing these Valentine's Day cards for crew because I think a lot of people don't realize.
I saw them. They're lovely. Yeah, they're really cute.
I was like, it's so important, especially right now where they can't work. Like, so many of don't have the jobs we once had. Like we've all had to reinvent or change or take on other jobs. So I was just like, oh, I want to show some love to crew. I think they're adorable.
Yeah, yeah, it's really definitely well worth doing. So fair play to you for doing that.
So I like to talk about gigs and gig memories and venues that you either enjoyed playing or that you enjoyed going to. So obviously we talked about the Smashing Pumpkins, which is amazing. They're one of my favorites because I adore grunge, actually. Not so much a
Deadly.
secret, you know? What kind of gigs have you either played that really stood out to you? Like even negative gigs, like or venues that you really enjoyed playing in, or venues that you really enjoyed attending, or bands you saw that just blew you away? Because we will get back to gigs. I just want to get a bit of excitement. Do you know?
Yeah, of course you will get back to gigs. It's going to take a little bit of time. There's so many gigs. I think the best way to learn is about going to gigs. You know, you want to be a soccer player, you go out and watch soccer, you see how the best players do it. You want to be a musician, a songwriter, you listen to the best songs, you go to the gigs, big or small. I really love the small gigs. Paul Simon and Vicar Street was really special. That was a really cool gig. There's so many, like Dylan, I've seen numerous times, and Springsteen, I've seen numerous times, and Tom Petty. Um, Van Morrison can be a little bit hit and miss for me personally, but once I saw him and he was stunning. Then I saw him 4 other times and he was shit. Well, that's Van de Man for you, man. And some said that with Dylan, but Dylan's in a different category for me, you know. I'm a little bit biased there. The gigs, I did a launch of the last album in Whelan's, which was really, really enjoyable. And then I did another gig in Whelan's, which was brutal. And I learned more from that brutal gig than a gig I've ever done in my life. I probably shouldn't have took it on anyway because I wasn't in the right headspace at all. There was a lot of stuff going on. And I just walked off the stage at the end and went walking around Dublin for about 3 hours on my own, smoking cigarettes when I smoked. So I learned since that time, I think I've been way more relaxed, I guess, might be a word that you could use, even though I'm always fairly relaxed on stage. So I think that was a big turning point for me as regards gigs. Eddie Vedder's brilliant live too. Did you see Eddie? Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see him solo or with Pearl Jam?
With Pearl Jam, years and years and years and years ago.
Yeah, he was
Chris
another
Cornell was another one. I saw him
Chris.
solo.
Did you?
Loved it. Incredible
Oh,
at
I never
Download
saw him.
Festival. I used to go to Download every single year religiously, and just that was my holiday for the year. So
Where was that?
Donington Park.
Where's that?
In England.
Oh,
So
right.
it used to be Ozfest and then it became Download Festival. So it's usually on during the summer and it's like metal festival, massive.
Ah,
Huge.
deadly.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, he was very sad. Lost Chris Cornell. Saw Pearl Jam in Germany. That was a brilliant, brilliant gig. A lot of these people put on, they don't just go through the motions, you know, they're there to do a job and they do really, really well. Like Pearl Jam would often do 3 or 4 hours, same with Springsteen. Bob, not so much now because he's nearly 80, but he still puts in beautiful show. It's the songs, man. It's the songs. He doesn't have to be touring. Do you know?
No, he doesn't. But like again, a colon, it's a necessity, it's a need, it's something that you feel you need to like the songs are in you for a reason. So everyone kind of goes about it their own way. So it's magical, like.
Yeah, it's magical for the audience too, isn't it? Like that energy of so many people coming together, enjoying themselves, most of them. And then with the songs, there's no experience like it, is there?
No, that merge where you could be beside a banker, you'd have nothing to talk about on a normal day, but all of a sudden you're feeling the same energy and you're on the same level, and it's amazing.
Yeah. And what's your favorite gig?
My favorite gig, oh my goodness, I've had too many. It's actually a really tough question. I really enjoyed, I went to see Mark Lanigan a few years ago and I loved that. I went to see Beak in the Button Factory this time last year. Actually, it was actually this day last year. They were amazing. And then obviously in this moment in time, I've had the immense pleasure of being part of over 50 performances, which I guess is not an honor everyone has had. So being the only person in a venue is quite strange.
Yeah. I can imagine.
I had Andy Irvine recently enough. He was amazing. I had Derry Farrell, Gavin James. Like I am the audience. It was weird, but it was amazing. It's completely a different experience to being at a gig on a normal thing where you have other people's energy there, you know?
Right. And were you recording it, or were you there promoting it, or what?
I was the live stream coordinator, artist liaison, stage manager. I was many things. I worked in
Very
Cypress
good.
Avenue in Cork.
Multitasking.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting. It was interesting. Yeah, it was cool.
Ah, that's cool. That must be some experience.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Yeah, and it was, again, it's so strange, like, because you've got like the film crew there, the sound crew, the lighting engineer, and the artist. That's all that's in a venue at the moment.
Yeah. Jesus, you haven't done any of that, you know. And what was like Andy Irvine like after song then? Was it just, did they enjoy it?
Yeah, like obviously a lot of people like have never had to do it in that format, so it's kind of
That's what I
helping them
mean.
through the process and being there. Like, so it's an adjustment for everyone. Like, some people have done live streams and lots of them, other people haven't. Like, how I started doing live streams is I worked with a group of independents to bring a music festival to Ireland during the summer. So we did a 10-hour live stream and we all donated our time, and we got 18 artists that were all independent Irish artists to perform during those 10 hours. So from that, back in August to now, I get calls because it's obviously something that I've been able to put behind, as well as the interviews that I do and all the other things with the articles and stuff like that. So that's how that happened.
That's deadly, Rebecca, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing what you can accomplish if you see a locked door and a locked window and you grab a brick. That's effectively what I've done. Like, I just don't take no for an answer. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's the business to be in, taking no for an answer.
so yeah, it's been a mad year.
It is, yeah. Just sounded like you were busy. That's great though.
Yeah, like, I mean, the interviews are brilliant and I love being able to showcase everyone's magic. So it's a huge honor for anyone to even ask or agree to do them. And it's great being able to help people have a platform to talk on. But there's so much else going on behind the scenes. It's been pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's great. There's a lot of time and effort. I started up a podcast in October, November, just about the songs. It's something I've wanted to do, and I asked a few people on that I knew. And there's a lot of effort goes into getting ready for an interview. You don't want to sound like a gobshite, you know. You want to have your homework done, don't you?
Yeah. And you also kind of want to be present in the camera. Not everyone is able, or not like, it's a skill you have to learn. Like,
Yeah. What are you saying? I haven't
no, no,
learned
no,
it.
no.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying
Was
it's a
that
lot
a
more
hint?
work than people realize. Yes, that's what I meant, Davie. That's what I meant.
I'm
No,
great
but
on the camera.
you were amazing on the camera. But it's a lot more work than you'd realize. People think that we just put this content out and nothing goes into it, but like, it's been a process. I started off in a tent in my sitting room. I've done over 100 interviews now. Like,
Deadly. Deadly, yeah. There's an awful lot of work into it. I like to have my research done. Like, I had Jerry Adams on and Christy Moore and Luca Bloom and Sarah Ryan. And I'm going to start it up again when this album is kind of out there and doing a bits and pieces. But yeah, I'd like to listen to all the songs if I can. Charlie McGettigan was on. It was a great crack, actually.
that's amazing. Like, I think it's so incredible to be able to talk to people about why they make what they make, what makes them make what they make, where the inspiration comes from, and also garnish a bit of their soul from their songs. Because I don't think anyone puts a song out there that they don't lose a part of themselves to. That's kind of the beauty of it. Like, I hear, I believe, the magic of each person every time I listen to one of their songs. So the more you kind of fall under that, or the more you get to know artists, the more then you can kind of discover other parts of why people do what they do, you know?
Absolutely. Totally agree with you. Yeah, that's exactly it. There's your experience talking now.
Sherlock.
Oh, sure, look.
Sherlock. Oh, yeah, no, it's been magical. And I assume that from your own podcast. So what's the name of that podcast? Where can people find that?
The Green Wave, I call it. So I've tried to keep it Irish. I have kept it Irish, actually. There's all Irish on it. There's Dylan Walsh, who lives in Nashville. He's from Dublin. There's Rob Corcoran, who lives in London. He's from Dublin. I tried to have the 50-50 gender balance on it as well. And it's on all the platforms like Spotify, the usual. Wherever you listen to your podcast, it's on it. But it was great. It was great crack. It was great experience, you know, Really enjoyed it.
And that's wonderful. I think it's great that anyone's pushing themselves to do something different or to discover something new. And by you actually interviewing other people, you're probably finding out new things about your own creative process, or you might be taking on other bits that you didn't realize before and questioning things more. So one of the questions I do ask a lot is, how have you found this moment in time with regards to your creativity? Like, has this creative cabin fever situation we're in now affected your creativity? Has it given you a different viewpoint on how you create, or has it made you realize that this is how you used to do things and maybe given you a different direction for those things, Davie?
No, you're right with the podcast, actually, Rebecca. That did give me some insight into my own writing. And we did a few co-writes after that as well with certain people that were on, like Charlie McGettigan and Sarah Ryan as well. And a few songs are after come. There's a bunch of songs there that I'd like to record. I've done here in my own studio. And I'm thinking of just doing an album, a very sparse album, as opposed to Haunted Streets, which is 15 musicians and fairly big productions on some of them. So you don't want to be doing the same thing day in, day out. The whole COVID thing hasn't really affected my writing so much. I think I'm writing more or less the same quantity anyway. I think I'm not too worried about the gigs coming back. They'll come back when they come back, when they're ready. I think it's a time that we just got to take care of each other. That's what we should do now. I think public health should be a priority over anything, and it should have always been anyway. I think we're seeing what happened over the last 10 or 15 years and longer by successive governments is coming back to bite us on the arse with the lack of investment into mental health services, the lack of investment into hospitals, the pure waste of money on tribunals and solicitors and barristers, the disgusting treatment of the poor girls who had the cervical cancer. It's just sickening the way they're being treated. And it's not the first time, it's been happening since the 90s from my memory anyway, Michael Noonan hepatitis scandals. I think the governments, when these people call themselves leaders, fucking give me a break. Like,
Yeah, if your priority is bringing a shamrock over to Washington instead of actually funding the hospitals that need our help in order to deal with this crisis, then there's a problem,
Yeah, well, the funding should have been happening over the last 20 years.
But like even in the last year. So like in the last year, you've had a time to get an infrastructure in place. You still haven't done that. So now we're all stuck in a standstill. There is no logic to that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And the treatment of the people of Ireland, they just treat people like shit, I believe. It'll always be, I think, to look after their own. There was no bailout for the homeless. There was no bailout for people who badly needed mental health services. But 11 years ago or 12 years ago, there was a bailout done overnight for the bankers. That's frustrating, it's beyond frustrating. But it can inspire certain songs as well. And I don't think musicians should be afraid to express that voice. And whether you agree with it or not, it's totally up to yourself.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that at least our industry is very, very, very certainly going to benefit from, because this moment in time will allow a creative voice to be pushed forward. I'm seeing so much beautiful music with such incredibly powerful messages coming out of this moment in time. Like you can stop us from gigging, but you can't stop us from creating or being heard. And that's amazing.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I hope so. I hope more and more songs are being heard, particularly by Irish artists, Yeah, I hope so.
Definitely. I see a wave of change. Like I hope the radios start doing at least a 50-50 play for like Irish artists. That would be amazing. I look at countries like France where like that is in law for radio. So you have to have French songs. You have to support your own. That would be beautiful to see in Ireland. But there's so many inventive platforms around the country forming as well, where people are actually just dealing with Irish artists and trying to give them a voice in their various ways. I think that's amazing. Those are the type of things.
And it's probably not, I don't know, a good time to say this with a new album coming out, but I wouldn't hold my breath with radio playing 50-50. people have been banging on the door for the last 10, 15 years trying to get that. So there's a whole lot of shit going on there. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you want to edit that bit out. I don't care.
And edit, Davie. So it's fine. No, but look, I think there is a wave of change. I'm seeing more and more DJs like in my hometown or in other places around the country who are actually making a conscious effort to include more Irish. It might not be happening at the rapidity that I kind of had foreseen myself or hoped for. And you're right, we've been fighting for this since the 80s. There was like so many in the Irish industry trying to get a better voice for Ireland, and it hasn't happened yet. So I do foresee a change. Look, I do. I personally think that more of us are realising the importance of the Irish music industry, the beauty of the Irish music industry, and are trying.
Yeah, I don't think it's the DJs, you know. I think it's the people who own the stations. Like, you know, they're handing the DJs the playlist and said, you got to play these songs, you know. There is a lot of goodwill from the majority of presenters towards Irish musicians. And I think they would love to be playing more Irish music if they were allowed. But again, I don't work for a radio station, so I still hope to play my songs.
They will, and they should, Davie. That album is
Thank you,
incredible.
Rebecca.
And it's out on the 19th of February. Anyone at home watching the interview who's heard who's on the album and who's heard about the songs and has gotten to know Davie from this interview, and even before, you should know the 19th of February is when that's out. It's going to be incredible. It's very exciting, and all the radios should absolutely be playing it. I like to ask this question lately. A lot of people have like a song they're most famous for, but it's very seldom their favorite song that they wrote. So out of your songs, what's your favorite and why?
I get close to certain songs for certain periods, and then I might drift away, and it comes and goes. I think Who Am I is probably the song I'm closest to at the minute, which is the single. I deliberately held it back for when the album was released, because I think the album is kind of built around that song, if that makes sense, even though it wasn't the first song recorded for the album. So Who Am I is probably the song I'm most closest to at the minute, but it's a tough question to answer that. You're going Claire Byrne on me here now. It's a really tough question, but that might change tomorrow, you know. It could be Farewell Returning Blues or Flames on the River.
Well, look, you're ever changing and ever evolving. So I don't imagine that the answer would be the same from the day to day, you know, and this is your body of work. These are your children effectively. So of course, there's going to be different times that things resonate differently. Or I just think it's a really interesting question, because lots of people are like, well, this is my favorite, this is my most popular song, but actually I hate it. Or I never thought that was going to be the one that was going to make me like the most listens. But I really, really like this song. And nobody really bites at that song. And I don't understand. That's mostly what people's answers have been. So I found that really interesting.
Yeah, and that's true for an awful lot of artists. Even like Springsteen, the biggest artist, released a song and said, "Jesus, I thought that was really going to catch on." And even Christy Moore said that to me in the podcast. He released a song called The Gardener. He said, "I thought it was really going to be up there, like with Right On and Ordinary Man." And he said, "None of the fucking radio stations played it." Like, he said, I think it's one of the best songs I've ever sang. Paul Doran wrote it. So it's the beauty of music, isn't it? It's the miracle of songs that you really don't know what songs would connect to what people. So you really have no idea. I don't think there's a formula to it. I've always found that I was the child more so than the songs, if that makes sense. So I never saw the songs as my children. I saw them more as my parents, or more as my, I don't know, really. I've always felt that they held all the power and I was just following them and they were leading. So I've never felt like they're leaving the nest. We're all going together here for the crack.
That's even interesting. Yeah, it really does. But like everyone has such a different viewpoint or way of seeing it. Like, so you wouldn't be the first person to say something similar to that to me. But most people view it as, these are my children and I want to get them birthed. Whereas other people are like, actually, the songs came to me for a reason. They're what pushed me, but they're not necessarily my kids. They're their own entity and I am here to push them. It's mad. Everyone is so different.
Yeah, or as I heard Paul Simon saying, he's a conduit for the songs. You know, the songs come through him and out to go. So I like that. I like that idea. I like that expression, and I can relate to that totally. Can't relate to Paul Simon's 50 million album sales, but
Look, everybody's different for a reason, Davie.
I know.
Yeah, I don't know. He wouldn't be my cup of tea either. So, like, it's mad.
No, I do like him. Sorry, cutting across you.
Oh,
Sorry.
no.
I do like him. I love him. I love a lot of his songs. That's all. But just haven't sold as many records as him.
Yet.
He's about 40 years on me, so.
Exactly.
Thank you.
No, but it's funny. Like, everyone is so different. Their process is so different. The reason they make music is so different. Yeah, everyone is similar. So it's always very interesting to even talk about these things with people, because, like, I'm not a creator. I'm literally a curator and a pusher. That is my job. I don't make songs. I wouldn't even know how to. Yeah, I seem to understand how, other people do. And each time, similar as you, when you were doing your podcast, where you're starting to go, oh, well, this is the evolution of music to this person. And everyone's answer is just as intrinsically interesting as the last. And that's what makes everyone individually beautiful. So having these conversations and understanding the process better is fascinating.
Yeah, that evolution is interesting. And I know you asked me the question earlier on. I don't think I really answered it. It was when I was learning the guitar and finding my own voice, which took a long time for me because I was trying to sing like Christy Moore, I was trying to sing like Luke Kelly. And then I'd go on and try and sing like maybe Bob Dylan or Bruce or, any of these, Tom Petty, maybe, all very unique voices, like, but it's all part of the learning process, and singing in pubs and learning songs from other people. That's how we started off, at the sessions, 15, 16, learning chords, learning how to interact with people, how to shut people up, how to accept people, and how to know when timing, how to know when to have a crack and when to say, all right, settle down there now, you know. But it was such a learning curve, like for those couple of years, and it still is, obviously. But for those years as a 16-year-old or 17-year-old playing in all the pubs with my cousins, it's amazing. Like the crack we had was unbelievable, brilliant.
But all of it is part of you honing your craft. So it's fascinating. Like, it takes absolute years. I don't think anyone's ever finished their musical journey. Like,
oh no, I agree with you. Yeah, absolutely. We're always trying to develop ourselves as people, as musicians, as songwriters. I think it's only my own opinion. So yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah, we're always trying to think maybe the next album, how can we do maybe a little bit different?
yeah, and I love that. I love that nobody's finished, and I love being able to speak to someone like you who was like, well, this is how this album came about, because that's fascinating. Like, the whole process of you writing your album is fascinating. The amount of people you have on it, all about that, the excitement surrounding it coming out, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was a fascinating album to work on. I haven't taken too much time reflecting on it, you see, So maybe that's why I'm struggling to answer that question a little bit, because it was ready to come out last March, but we held it back for a year. And now I'm all in the middle of the album promo. So I'm not in a reflective mode, really, know. And then I'm thinking about the other songs that have come and what I can do with those. So I haven't taken much time to reflect on the process. I know Secret Light with LED, she's a Dublin singer, was the first song we recorded for it. And I wasn't planning on doing an album, but then the songs were there, so we started recording them. So yeah, I must take some time to reflect on it. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, look, it's difficult, and you're right, you're in the middle of the launching of it. So you're not going to have that time to reflect yet, because you're going to be all go. But yeah, in a few months' time, perhaps do your own podcast where you reflect on what you've just produced, created, and released into the world, because that's fascinating.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I am really interested in people at the moment. I find a lot of people have more time to listen to music, and we talked about you listening to music a lot lately. Have you been rediscovering music for the first time? That's what I like to call it. Have you been listening to songs you hadn't listened to in years and going, wow, this is like the first time I've heard it, but it's not the first time I've heard it? Is there anything like that going on?
Yeah, I love when that happens. Do you?
Yes.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love it. I have actually, yeah. And I'm always trying to listen to new music as well. With the podcast, depends who's coming up. I would devour their albums and their songs for a couple of days at least. So, excuse me. So that's really interesting. Excuse me. That's really interesting. That's savage. You know, going through songs that I wouldn't have heard before. And knowing that you're going to be talking to the person who wrote them. Why did you pick that song? You know, and I get to pick the songs. So say if you were an artist and you were coming on and I'd pick 5 songs from your whole collection, so they don't know what songs I'm picking. So it's great to see their reaction, you know. I've been listening to a lot of Steve Earle lately, Rebecca, for some reason. Ghost of West Virginia is an album he brought out earlier on in the year, and then he brought out the album about JT, about his son who passed away. Not about his son, his son's songs. Justin was a songwriter and a brilliant songwriter and musician, and he passed away in 2020. And Steve, his dad, then made an album of his songs, which is stunning. Great album. Great songs. What a thing to do as well, you know. Couldn't have been easy to record those songs. So I've been listening to those, and they're not all sad or despondent by any means, you know. It's a proper Steve Earle album, I guess. So there's huge amounts of music, isn't there? Like, there's huge amounts of music. I am old school in that I love listening to an album from start to finish. As I said before to someone, if I'm reading a book, I won't open chapter 10 and start reading it from there, you know?
Yeah, that's why I've rediscovered like tapes and vinyl, and I'm truly enjoying that because I invested in a Technics like old school 80s like stereo, and like that's what I do. I lock myself in my music room and I will listen to an album start to finish, as opposed to when I go into Spotify, which is great and very handy and it's brilliant. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that tool, except they don't play artists correctly, but that's you know, that's different. But outside of that, I don't like my randomized. Like, I want to listen to the album in the body of work the way it was intended, and I do find that very, very frustrating. So that's why, like, going back to the old school tools, like, I try and buy as many vinyls that are Irish or merch that's Irish in order to support the industry in this moment in time, because there's not very many other ways of making an income. But yeah, I love that. I love listening to an album the way it's meant to be.
Yeah, that's very nice of you to do that. Yeah, I love vinyl as well. And I haven't listened to a tape in a long time, actually. But I do like listening to an album from start to finish. And I take great care in the track listing, you know. Bit geeky, I suppose, but the songs are in that order for a reason. And when a new album comes out from someone else, I listen to the album from start to finish to get a good vibe from it, or to get what vibe the album is about it and the stories.
That's it. Like, it's craft. Like, it's a story being told by an artist. So having that respect and understanding of, this is the way it was meant for a reason. This is how I meant my body at work. Now, obviously, when you put music out, like, how it's interpreted or how it resonates with someone is no longer your business, because everyone's going to have a different perception. That must be really difficult actually for artists. Sometimes you're like, that is really not how I meant that song. Why is everyone thinking this is how I meant that song? You know, it's like, I can imagine that. Yeah, like poor Sting with his "Don't Stand So Close for Me," or like, you know, like, this is a wedding song. This is about a stalker. Okay, so like, stuff like that must be like just very difficult. But it's also the beauty of music, is it's not yours once it's out there.
Yeah, I find it funny actually. Some of the reviews coming in that interpret the songs in different ways than I think that I wrote them, but it's amusing. It's interesting too, you know. It's interesting. But I'm like that with certain songs. There's about 100 Bob Dylan songs I haven't a fucking clue what they're about, but I love them. So it's I don't think there's nothing wrong with that at all. I think it's a great thing.
It's part of the magic, I guess, and that's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So, Davie, before I let you go and stop recording, is there anything you'd like to add to the interview?
Well, I'd like to say thank you for doing the interviews, and thank you for supporting Irish artists. And I hope you look after yourself. And Keanu, am I allowed to say that in there?
Yeah.
And he's getting a real good taste for music, so you're doing your job well there. And
thank you.
Don't worry, everything will be okay.
Yeah, I think same to yourself. I'm super excited for everyone else to get to hear the album. And I'm really happy that it's getting such a wonderful response already and all the lovely reviews that are coming in for you. I think they're well deserved. And obviously it's an incredible star cast you have for that album, but most of it does come from you, Davie. So incredibly well done.
Thanks, Rebecca. I really appreciate that. It's lovely.
You're welcome. So I'll stop recording now.